Dr. Jo, it's such a pleasure to be able to sit here with you.
Thank you.
And I'm really inspired by the research that you're doing, the area of focus that you have, because from body composition to understanding the impact of obesity on our disease states that so many people experience in this country, to really understanding what is skinny fat,
Yes.
which we're going to talk about now. It's transformative, right? Like,
Yes.
we can transform our lives by understanding these simple, well, not simple, but these concepts and knowing where to focus our attention.
Yes.
So thank you.
So I want to start from the concept of this skinny fat. I usually use normal weight obesity. It's kind of an ironic term between normal weight and obesity, but
As a term, so you use normal weight obesity
Obesity.
instead of skinny fat.
fat. Yes.
Right. And I don't know how many people have heard of skinny fat, but it's definitely out there. A lot of people are hearing it, and maybe they understand, maybe they don't. So if you can define, well, we've got these two terms,
Yes.
and maybe define.
Yeah, so clinically normal weight obesity means you have normal body weight based upon body mass index.
Yeah.
So it's from 18.5 to 25. You fall into between this range, you are normal weight. So, but inside your body, you may have like excessive body fat. It doesn't really appear on your body, but you have excessive body fat, your organs or somewhere in your body, and then we can say that's actually normal weight obesity. So who have normal weight but who have excessive body fat.
And what is that as a percentage? What makes excessive body fat?
So there's no clinical standard cut point, but I usually say 25% for men and 35% for women.
Understood. So if our body fat is 35% or more, then we are obese, and or we could have that normal weight, but we could be that normal weight obesity, or the other term of skinny fat.
Correct. So, well, technically obesity means is excessive body fat mass over the body. It's not just excessive body weight. But we usually say, oh, you have a higher body mass index, then you're obese. So it's part of caveat of BMI. But if someone has excessive body fat over the range, then we can say they're obese, regardless of their BMI.
So how can you tell? How would we be able to tell if we're over that 35% that we're skinny fat?
Yeah, it's really hard to measure actually body fat, even though you have your own scale, but it doesn't show your body fat on the scale. And MRI, CT scan, or BIA techniques, these all types of techniques can measure your body fat and tell you how much fat you have. However, it should be implemented in clinic, not at home. But advanced technology in the near future can help to tell us how much fat we have and then how excessive fat we have, so we can actually define ourselves as normal weight obesity or normal weight or healthy obese people, something like that.
So when you look at something like metabolic syndrome, and if someone has a circumference of their waist, if a woman has a circumference at 35
for men and then 40 for women. Oh, sorry. 35 for women and 40 for men.
Yes. So if it's 35 for women and 40 for men, is that an indicator of a body fat over 35%?
No, exactly not, because there are not many people, not normal weight people, who have really greater waist circumference because they look just normal. So the whole point of this skinny fat people actually have visceral fat around organ. So this visceral fat actually causes inflammatory to the organ, and that leads to a metabolic syndrome.
So the visceral fat that surrounds the organs, that's where it goes. So if we want to be, 25% body fat or potentially below, but once we get to 35, then the amount of visceral fat has accumulated to a point where it then becomes dangerous.
That's That's ideal. So the 35% of body fat actually includes visceral fat and subcutaneous fat.
Yes.
Both. So I can't really say visceral fat is riskier one than subcutaneous fat, but definitely for normal weight people, visceral fat is the risk factor of whole this body fat obesity people.
How would you explain, so we understand visceral fat, how would you explain subcutaneous fat?
Subcutaneous fat is basically the fat underneath your skin. So when you clip your skin,
Yeah.
you can see there's a skin, but if you like clip anywhere on your part, you can have more skin. But it's just not a skin. There are fat underneath the skin. So subcutaneous fat is actually fat around your body underneath the skin. But visceral fat is technically fat located around the organ.
Yes. So what I'm wondering is, what are the things that we could even do at home that would give us an indication of, are we at that danger point? Are we skinny fat? How much visceral fat do we have? Now, I know obviously it's not like getting an MRI or something, but are there ways that we can sort of go in that right direction?
So maybe digital scale might be alternative, but it's not validated
Right.
yet. The other way is pretty new technique recently. We can say sagittal abdominal diameter. So
What is that?
yeah, it's kind of complicated. You lay down on the floor,
Okay.
and then they measure actually the height from your spine to the belly, because your subcutaneous fat fled
Interesting.
out, and then the height from your spine to the belly is the visceral fat just stays in this area. So they measure this height and then say, oh, you have excessive visceral fats or not. Yeah.
And so that measurement, that could be something that we could do at home.
Yes. No cut point yet, though.
Okay, there's no, but that's something that's just starting to be researched, or?
It's pretty recent. I guess it's from 2010 or something. There are not many research, but some research actually investigated this measurement to measure the visceral fat.
Yeah.
So it's pretty simple measurement.
So is it based on height?
Based on height. So basically it's diameter.
Yes.
They have, I don't remember
No problem.
the thing, but
Yeah.
they have a ruler and
Yes.
they measure the height from the
Yeah.
spine to the belly and then see, oh, this height is healthy range or not.
Okay, interesting. So we'll pull that up.
Yeah, I'll send you that article.
Okay, great. That's awesome. So that's a great way, with a ruler, and we can understand at least directionally how to do it. So I'm hoping that everyone that's watching this tonight will pull out the ruler and we'll get that understood. What else would you tell us about this place of being skinny fat?
So skinny fat, the huge weakness of this skinny fat is actually less chance or no chance to have screening for prevention, chronic disease prevention. For example, diabetes screening guideline. United States Preventive Service Task Force, they always announce and publish recommendation for screening. And the diabetes screening guideline, it actually focuses on overweight obese population. But according to my research, 64% of normal weight people actually are skinny fat. That's huge, more than half of
Okay, let me just repeat that.
64%
of normal weight people are skinny fat.
Yes.
So
They
one of
look-
us.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was actually diagnosed with skinny fat.
You were.
Yeah, back in like 20s, and then they said, oh, well, actually I was overweight, and they actually measured my body composition and said, oh, you have a lot of muscle and a lower body fat, so you're not technically overweight, but your body weight tells you you're overweight. So they said, oh, you do not need to lose your weight.
And did you?
No, because I have a lot of muscle and I have a higher bone density. So I actually keep up my workout then.
That's great. So you were not skinny fat.
No, I'm not.
Okay, yeah. Right.
But I saw a couple of people around me, and then actually most Asians are skinny fat.
Okay, really?
Yes. So there are kind of concerns about this BMI cut point,
Right.
because Asians always have lower BMI than other Western countries. However, risk of chronic diseases and prevalence of chronic disease are way higher than Western people. So how could people explain this?
Right.
Because they have actually higher visceral fat. They look normal, they have just normal BMI, but they have actually fat around their organs. So that causes higher prevalence of chronic diseases. But if doctor measured your body weight, oh, you look normal.
Right.
You don't need to lose your weight, or you don't need to actually work out. You're just normal. But they have diabetes, they have hypertension. So how can you prevent them?
Fascinating. So did you grow up in Korea?
Yes, I grew up in Korea, until my college.
Yes. And so growing up in Korea, obviously, you have the most beautiful skin, and
Thank you.
and K-beauty is famous all over the world. And we were talking a little bit about, I've been fascinated by the skincare industry for over a decade, and having spent a lot of time with chemists and researchers developing skincare, so much of the best comes from Korea. And also spending a lot of time throughout Asia, you really don't see the level of obesity anything close to what we see here.
No.
So you see this beautiful skin, you see a lot of people on their bicycles, a lot of different, daily movements, but you're saying that the amount of skinny fat people in Asia is higher than the 64% here in this country.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So we have only less than 20% of obesity prevalence in Korea. 40% obesity rate in here, that's double count.
Yeah.
But we have more skinny fat people. We have higher diabetes prevalence. We have higher prevalence of hypertension. So how can we say we're healthy?
Fascinating. How can we, I think everybody that's watching this that hasn't heard these sort of numbers is fascinated. As a nation where we've got 64% of us with skinny fat, and the reason I'm doing this with you now, and the reason I'm completely passionate about body composition, is it was such a shift for me. Really, in the past year, I'm in my mid-40s, and realizing that focusing on my weight was actually taking me down an unhealthy path. Not that I was trying to be too thin, but only focusing on that number, I was forgetting about the other important numbers, and I wasn't looking at the full picture, right? So it was you're focusing on the wrong thing. So now that I'm thinking about the bone density, I'm thinking about my body composition, I'm thinking about how much protein I need at this stage, how much strength and conditioning I need to do to become stronger and healthier, and understanding that, what are the top things that we can all do, the top 3 things that we can do today to improve our body composition?
First, eat healthy, definitely. Eat more protein, eat less fat.
No. So eat more protein, but less bad fat.
Less bad fat, exactly. Yeah. I'm not nutrition, so I'm not really familiar with this. Yeah. But the first one is eat healthy, and the second one is do exercise with resistance training.
With resistance training.
Correct. Well, many people just do cardio.
Yeah.
Just running around or cycling every day. But I highly recommend to do resistance training with cardio.
So great. So doing the cardio plus the strength and conditioning or resistance. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
And
at least you can just lift a bottle of water every night.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful. And then third is it actually, from my recent study, move more.
Yes.
It's not just exercise. Move more in your just work hours. We usually sit all the time, and then we don't move. I mean, I have Apple Watch. It prompts me to, okay, it's time to stand up. So I stand up. It reads my standing up, and then, okay, you stand up. Good job. But I didn't move, actually. I just stand up. I didn't walk around. It doesn't really help actually. So stand up, move a lot. If you have a walking, if you want to go somewhere in a walking distance, just walk.
I love that.
Yeah, instead of driving a car, just walk every day, like at least 10 or 15 minutes in every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours. So for you, are you getting up once an hour? Are you getting up every 2 hours?
I'm trying to be in every 2 hours, but my so recent article about the healthy weight people for cardiovascular risk. If you sit like more than 3 hours, like prolonged sitting time over 3 hours, that is actually really risky behavior for your cardiovascular health. So even though a person has a normal weight, but they sit all day long without moving,
Yeah.
they are actually have a higher risk than just normal people, or they don't have really different risk of cardiovascular disease like other obese population. So we
Wow.
see that obese population have higher risk, but normal weight obesity people, they definitely have higher risk as the same as
the
this.
obese.
Correct.
So you can be skinny fat, have no idea that you have these risk factors, and if you're sitting for 3 hours, that's really detrimental. I've read and we know the term, sitting is the new smoking.
Mhm.
So it makes a lot of sense what you're saying.
Yes. So my recent article about this Fitbit and mobile devices it's actually a review paper, and it says even though it helps to you move up or standing up, but
Right.
it doesn't really help to improve your the clinical factors like diabetes or blood pressure or cholesterol level. Doesn't really help. So the meaning is you have to stand up and move.
And you have to move 10 to 20 minutes a day.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
good. Well, that's very exciting because right before I interviewed you, I was moving. I was just moving around, and you're right. There are many parts of the world where movement is very natural. You walk here, you walk there. And it's not so natural in most parts of the U.S.
Yes.
Here we are at the University of Florida, and we're going to walk to our car and maybe walk for 20 seconds or something.
Yeah.
And I parked close. I could have parked further away, but I was like, no, I'll park closely. So it's great information that you're sharing with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.